My name is John Ramberg. I'm the singer and guitar player of the Tripwires out of Ballard, Washington.
Hi there, I'm Mike Forts and welcome back to Parlour to Parlour. It was Jason Milne from the Purrs who introduced me to the music of the Tripwires, a Seattle power pop band led by -5 singer-guitarist John Ramberg. Filling out the Tripwires are guitarist Johnny Sangster, bassist Jim Sangster, and drummer Mark Pickerel, whom some of you may know via the Screaming Trees. 2 mornings after witnessing a live show to launch the band's new album House to House, I sat down with John Ramberg, still fresh in his Halloween costume. Here he talks about putting the band together after making a series of recordings with REM touring drummer Bill Rieflin, and the band's take on rock versus rock and roll.
And I asked Jim and Johnny, like, would you guys be interested in getting a band together? I mean, I have to promote this if I intend to put it out, you know. And then we started playing. The record got delayed because at some point those guys were, after we had started, and they brought Pickerel in because they were playing in the Praying Hands, and they thought he would be perfect. And it worked out great right away, you know. We started playing shows and realized we should re-record some of these to sort of reflect the sound of this band. And it's a power pop sort of band, but there's sometimes I joke that that we sort of bring the and roll a little bit into the rock and roll thing. Like a lot of people, it's a divisive thing, but you know, like there's a weird thing that happened in the 70s with the sort of and roll part of rock and roll with punk rock and just when it gets kind of Chuck Berry-ish, or it gets a little, I think people make associations with that bad 70s nostalgia about a certain kind of rock and roll, like they think of like Sha Na Na or Happy Days, and that kind of like corny greaser kind of, but we have just a little more than the average power pop band. We have a little bit of that and roll part of rock and roll, like we'll actually play straight up sort of rock and roll songs, which sometimes, I mean, I don't know, it's a fine line, but I guess something like Rockpile is sort of a touchstone for us. I love Nick Lowe's sort of my top songwriting hero, and like there's a way to do it if you have taste and you know you're not ridiculous about it. It feels like every time we play something like that, people are pretty accepting of it. So
Usually the band plays only in the Pacific Northwest, but some new faces and some new locations will have a chance to see if you'll be accepting of a little and roll put back into your rock.
February, March is what we're shooting for, so definitely keeping my fingers crossed. There are people working on it as we speak, so we will make it. I hopefully as far down in San Diego, and you know, probably turn around and come back, and we might go back east. We're kind of working on angles for that too right now. See if we can figure out a way to sort of fly in and sort of 6 days and back east maybe. And there's also this talk of Japan right now too, which is like given the opportunity to put the record out in Japan, which if we say yes, we're sort of committing to go to play there, which I'm like really excited about because I love Tokyo and it's awesome.
As a fan of power pop bands from Big Star and Badfinger to Cheap Trick and the Posies, John has come to appreciate good, solid songs, which is ultimately what he strives for.
I think at the end, it always ends up being about songs. Like if you read a review of a band that says, this is a style exercise, like even like something like that Liverpool Echo, and you're looking backward a little bit. Like even, you know, like a band like this, you could say it of Sloan, or like almost any power pop band. It's not the most contemporary, groundbreaking music, you know, but I find that they never say things like that, or like this is a tired, you know, style or something. They never bring that up unless the songs are weak. You know, if the songs are weak, then it's like, oh, this just sounds like a Beatle record, or like a bad version of a, you know, of a Posies record or something. But it doesn't come up unless, you know, that's only when the songs don't, you know, connect, I guess.
Okay, let's have a look at some cool things around John's house, and then we'll conclude with a short trip to Seattle's Carkeek Park for an alternately sentimental and humorous trip down memory lane.
This here is a poster for a -5 show when the Soft Boys reunited, and it was a thrill to see the Soft Boys. I probably should have mentioned them at some point, because that was a band that Scott McCoy and all the Young Fresh Fellows introduced me to in the 80s, you know, Underwater Moonlight, and just to meet all the Soft Boys, and they're super nice, and to watch them, you know, they just didn't miss a step. It was an incredible show, and to play with them, it was quite thrilling. My guitars, there's my Cheap Trick poster showing the colors. The drum set I use for my demos. And, you know, I do a little demo recording in here. It is what it is. It's a tiny room, but I definitely kill many hours back here. My wife and I we dated in high school, and used to come down here in the summer and hang out on the beach. Just a beautiful park. I mean, I ended up naming, I have a song publishing company, and named it after Carkeek Park. Oh, I spelled it wrong. I was panicked. I had to fill out the form, and I was like, is it the K? It's actually with a C. Once, my friend Ian and I, when I was in grade school, we were probably 8 to 11 in there somewhere. Probably about 11 years old, because I don't know, we'd sneak out at night, and he'd spend the night, and go down the gully and stuff, in pitch dark, you know, which seems nuts, but we would do it. And we came down here one Friday night, and there was this crazy high school party time going on down here, and, you know, just a keg, and, like, you know, this is 1978, so, you know, they're blasting the Blue Oyster Cult and just hanging out, and we were in the bushes, like, going, whoa, this is crazy, you know, like, just spying on them. And the cops came rolling in, and so everybody clears out, obviously, runs to their cars and tries to escape, and, you know, like, there's a big, you know, hullabaloo for 10 minutes, and then everybody's gone, and we're still in the bushes. And so we came walking out, and we found a cassette, one of those tape cases, and like some poor party goer had left behind, and opened it up, and it had, like, you know, every Led Zeppelin album, every AC/DC album, and a huge bag of weed, and a little pipe, and a lighter. It was like a complete, like, debauchery kit. We were like 11 years old, and we both were like, oh man. And we ended up walking to the playground over here, where they had these big circular, you know, like, tube things that kids would, and we sat in there and smoked pot, and nothing happened. It's probably not very good pot, but we pretended we were stoned. Maybe the first time, it seems like a lot of people, the first time they smoke it, nothing happens. So that was a memorable moment here at Carkeek Park.
Ah, the debaucherous days of youth. It's what fuels rock and roll, but we're going to strip it back to basics for the performance footage, which features John playing the song Look at It This Way solo on his acoustic guitar while the rest of the band was away. But keep an eye out for tour dates next year to see the full band. Thanks for hanging with us, and I'll see you next week when we head back to the Bay Area once again to meet up with a busker who also would have had a field day in the early 70s. Enjoy!
This game sounds strange, but they're awesome to play.